Dear students, today I am going to teach a new topic, that is virtual memory. Now let us look at the contents of the presentation. So we want to begin with a little background, then demand paging, copy and write, page replacement, allocation of frames, and finally we study about the thrashing. So we know that in the computer system, if you want to execute a program, the program must be brought from secondary storage device like hard disk to main memory or primary memory, because the CPU can get the instructions, or it can interact with only primary memory or main memory, not with the secondary storage. Hence, it is necessary to bring a program from the disk to main memory. Then that program is going to be executed by the CPU instruction by instruction by taking the instructions from the main memory. But there are some difficulties you may face here in this particular approach. That is, in the multi-programming environment, so we need to execute multiple programs concurrently or simultaneously. In this case, we need to bring the many programs into main memory for the execution by the CPU simultaneously. So in this case, if you load an entire program into main memory, then it is going to consume lot of space in the main memory. Then there may not be sufficient space available for other programs to load it to memory and to execute. And another difficulty is, if the program size is larger than the size of main memory, then is it not possible to execute that particular program? So as per this approach, it may not be possible, because the entire program we need to bring it to main memory, then only we can execute it. So this is a major problem we may face. To overcome this problem, there are some techniques we will be learning in this particular topic. Here, if you look at the program, it is not necessary to bring entire program into memory, because you might be observed, if you take a particular program, it is containing different types of codes. Like there are some instructions which are written for handling error code. So these instructions will be executed, or this code will be executed only when there is any error occurs during execution of the program. If no error occurs, such error codes will not be executed at all. So it is not necessary to load such instructions into memory, because such instructions are executed rarely whenever any error occurs during execution of the program. Such code will not be executed always. So it is not necessary to load such error codes into main memory. And there are some unusual routines. They are not executed most of the time. Such routines we have to bring into the main memory. And the program may be using the data sets like array list and linked list. So these data structures may be consuming a lot of memory. For example, if you declare an array of 100, and out of 100 if you utilize only 10, so that leads to wastage of memory. So instead of allocating memory for array for 100 locations, what we can do is only required memory size we can consider. So we can go for dynamic memory allocation. Static memory allocation can be avoided. So like this, it is not always necessary to bring entire program into memory for the execution. The code which is not used frequently cannot be loaded into memory. The code which is being executed frequently has to be brought into the memory. So that is what entire code not needed at the same time during execution of the program. So consider the ability to execute a partially loaded program. A program no longer constrained by limits of physical memory. It means in this particular approach, even we can execute the program which are larger than the physical memory or main memory. That is because it is not necessary to bring the entire program into the main memory. Only the parts which are required to execute the process of program we load into memory. It means a program which are larger than physical memory can be executed. Now let us talk about virtual memory. So that is basically separation of user logical memory from physical memory. So the virtual memory is basically different from physical memory. Physical memory is the main memory where actually the program instructions to be loaded in order to execute them. Virtual memory is basically a logical memory. It's a memory allocated to the user program. So it means a complete program will be stored in a memory that is called as virtual memory. So it is basically a high-speed disk. A high-speed disk is used as virtual memory where actually a complete program will be stored. And if you want to execute that particular program and a few part of that program or few instructions of that program can be brought into the physical memory or main memory for the execution, and remaining part will be there in the disk itself. So virtual memory is a technique that allows execution of a process that are not completed in memory. It means we can execute a process and its code is not completely available in physical memory. Only some part of it is in the physical memory and the remaining part of the programming will be in the virtual memory, that is in the disk. Whenever required, that part can be brought to the main memory for the execution. Only part of program needs to be in the main memory for execution. Advantage of this virtual memory scheme is that the programs which are larger than physical memory can be executed. Logical address space will be much larger than physical address space because the programs are kept in the disk. The complete programs are kept in the disk, but physical memory will be holding some part of that particular program. It means the logical address space of the program which is kept in virtual memory is always larger than physical address space. So that is address space available in the main memory, and it allows address spaces to be shared by several processes. Virtual memory concept allows address space to be shared by several processes. If there are many processes are executing the same code, then it can be shared, and it allows more efficient process creation. The process creation will be more efficient because only the required instructions will be brought into the physical memory for the execution of the process, not the entire code. Hence, the process creation will be more efficient in case of virtual memory scheme. And it is possible to execute more programs concurrently. It means in the virtual memory concept, the entire program instructions are not brought into the main memory. Only the required instructions are loaded into main memory and only those instructions are being executed. It means some space will be saved here, and that space can be utilized for loading and executing other programs. So the multi-programming is possible, and the throughput of the system will be improving if you adopt virtual memory scheme. And one more benefit we are getting is less I/O needed to load and stop the processes. A process will be stopped between virtual memory and the physical memory, and the time required to do that stopping will be very less. And one more thing I have to remember, so whatever the virtual logical address we have in the disk, that is divided into number of pages. We already learned that a program will be divided into number of fixed pages, and pages are named from page 0, page 1, page 2 and so on, and the physical memory is divided into number of fixed size frame. So we supposed to load pages into the frames of the physical memory. So there must be a mapping done between the program pages and frames. So that will be decided based on the PS table. So there are two different ways of implementing virtual memory. The first one is demand paging and second one is demand segmentation. Now let us look at a diagram here. So in this diagram we can say about virtual memory. So that is larger than physical memory. So this is basically high speed disk where actually the complete program has been kept here, and that program is divided into number of pages. Okay, and the memory used in the disk for storing the pages of that program is called as virtual memory. So this virtual memory is divided into number of pages like this, which are named like page 0, page 1, page 2, so on up to page V. So this virtual memory is having pages, V number of pages, and if you look at this, the size of virtual memory is larger than physical memory, because a program that you want to execute and its size is larger than main memory or physical memory. So this particular program, big program, has been kept into the disk. So that is divided into number of pages, so which is called as virtual pages or virtual memory, and the physical memory is divided into number of frames. So the pages in the virtual memory are more than the frames in the physical memory. It means virtual memory is always larger than physical memory, and only few pages that are required for execution of the process will be brought into the physical memory through memory map. Now let us look at virtual address space. So if you take a process in the system, that process will be having different segments that we already learned in the earlier models, and the process address usually begins at 0, and this is the maximum value of the address, and it is having a different segments like code segment, where actually the program instructions are stored, data segment, program data will be stored, and above that we will find two segments. One is called a heap segment and the other one is stack segment. Heap segment is basically used for dynamic memory allocation. If a process requires memory, then during execution time, then that memory will be allocated in the heap, and during execution of the process there is a need of a stack also. Here if you look at stack and heap, they are going in opposite direction. Heap is going in the upward direction and stack is going in the downward direction, and there is a sufficient amount of space left here for heap and stack here, and this much amount of space may not be utilized by the process all the time, so it can be used for some other purposes. So that is called as virtual address space here. So virtual address space is basically called as sparse address space with holes left for growth, like dynamically linked libraries. So the space which is available or kept for heap and stack to grow, that particular space can be used for the dynamic linked libraries. System library is shared via mapping into virtual address space. The system library is usually shared by many processes, and it can be put into virtual address space, and it can be shared by the many processes simultaneously. A shared memory by mapping pages read write into virtual address space. A particular shared memory that we need to map into virtual address space. Even it is useful whenever we call the fork. We know that fork function in Unix is going to create a new child process. Here the parent and child process will be executing the same program code. So a program code that will be shared by both parent and child. So such common code we can keep in the virtual address space. So that is being shared by both parent and child process simultaneously. And the shared library using virtual memory, that is been shown in this particular diagram. There are two processes. So this is say for example process P1, process P2, and every process has got its own core segment, data segment, heap segment, stack segment. Here also you will find the same core, data, heap and stack segments, and there is a space left between heap and stack segment. It can be used for storing the shared pages. So this is basically some system library that is being shared by process P1 and P2. So what we can do is we can keep this particular what I can say routines into the shared library, that is a common space that is being shared by two processes here. So that is actually called as virtual address space. And we already studied that the virtual memory can be implemented, or virtual address can be implemented with a technique called demand paging. So let us understand what is demand paging. Demand paging basically load pages only as they are needed. So this technique is called as demand paging. See, a program is virtually divided into number of pages and the entire program is kept into a disk. So that is called as a high speed hard disk, where actually the entire program has been kept, which is divided into number of virtual pages. Here we need not to bring or load all the pages from the disk to physical storage. Only pages which are needed for the execution of the process are to be brought into the main memory. So this technique is called demand page. So whenever the pages are demanded for the execution, are required for the execution, only those pages we need to bring into the main memory from the disk. So that is called as demand paging. So the demand paging for page virtual memory, pages are only loaded when they are demanded during execution, program execution. Pages that are never accessed are thus never loaded into physical memory. The pages which are not required for the execution are never loaded into physical memory. And whenever a particular page is needed, so we need to reference that particular page. If that page is not there in the memory, see, for the execution of the process, if a particular page is required, we need to have a reference to that particular page. If that page is not there in the physical memory, then it is called as invalid reference. If the page is already there in the physical memory, it is called as a valid reference. That page containing instructions, we can take it and execute. If the requested or demanded page is not exist in the main memory, it is called as invalid reference and process execution will be aborted because the required page is not available in the main memory and the process execution cannot be continued. So it is creating a trap to the operating system. Then in this case, if the page is not available in the main memory, what we need to do? We need to bring that page to the memory from disk. We know that entire program consisting of different pages are kept in the disk. If a particular page is demanded and if it is not available in the main memory, it is called as invalid reference and process execution will be aborted, and we need to bring that particular this one page from main memory to the from a disk to the main memory. So we perform an operation called lazy swapping. It is done by a swapper called as lazy swapper. Let us understand what is lazy swapper. Never swaps a page into memory unless page will be needed. Here we need not to swap all the pages from disk to memory. Only pages which are required needs to be loaded into the or swapped into the main memory. Hence it is called as lazy swapper. It never swaps page into memory unless it is needed. So this swapper is basically called as pager. Lazy swapper is called as pager. The job of pager is to bring pages from disk to the main memory only when it is needed. Now the transfer of the page memory to contiguous disk space is shown in this particular diagram. So this is the main memory or physical memory where there are two programs kept here, and every program is having the pages. Only the required pages you can see in the main memory here. Say the program A pages are swapped out to the disk here. So after execution of the pages of program A, what we need to do is we need to swap out those pages. We need to send to the disk. For example, the pages 4, 5, 6, 7 are swapped out from the main memory disk, and at the same time the pages 17, 18, 19 related to program B have been swapped in to the main memory for the execution. So there will be swapping out and swapping on, or swapping will be done in case of virtual memory, and the time required to perform swap out and swapping will be overhead, but it will be smaller. Now let us look at valid invalid bit. We know that in the memory management there is something called page table is maintained. So page table basically providing a mapping. It is providing mapping between page number and the frame. So it is basically used for translation of logical address to physical address. So page table is basically used for translating or converting logical address to physical address. So usually in the page table we will have the frame numbers and the page number. Page number is used as an index to get the frame number, and the corresponding page number will be mapped to frame number, and it will be loaded into that particular frame. So along with the page number and the frame number in the page table, we are maintaining one more bit here, that is called as valid invalid bit. A particular entry of the page table can be either marked as valid or invalid. It means if it is marked as valid, it means that particular page is already in the memory. It is called as memory resident. A particular entry in the page table, if it is marked as valid, it means that the corresponding page number that is mapped to that frame is already there in the memory. If it is marked as I, it indicates that it is not in the memory. That particular page is not there in the main memory, and we need to bring that particular page into the main memory from disk. So initially the entire program is kept in the main memory. It is divided into number of pages. So that is called as virtual memory. So we need to, if you look at the memory at the beginning of the program execution, main memory, here no pages of that particular process will exist in the main memory. All the pages are there in the virtual memory itself. So initially valid invalid bit will be set to I for all the entries. For all the entries of that process, the valid invalid bit will be set to I. It is at invalid. And during address translation, that is translation of logical address to physical address, if valid invalid bit in the page table entry is I, then it is called as page fault. Okay, so actually we are making a reference to the page, and if the page is marked as invalid in the page table, it indicates that the page is not there in the memory. Okay, it is called as page fault. Actually the page has been demanded for the execution, but it is not available in the memory because its entry in the page table is marked as I. It is called as page fault. So whenever page fault occurs, we need to bring that particular page from the disk to the main memory. Now let us look at the page table when some pages are not there in the memory. So this is what logical memory of the program. The program is divided into number of pages. The pages are numbered like 0, 1, 2 up to 7. In this particular program there are 7 pages, and the instructions of these pages are named like A, B, C, D, F up to H. So all these pages are kept in the disk here, you can observe. And there is a page table, and this is a physical memory. In the physical memory only few pages have been brought here. And if you look at the page table, so these are the page numbers, and so these are the corresponding frame numbers. Like page 0 is loaded at frame 4, you can observe in the physical memory. Similarly page 2 has been mapped to 6 here. At the frame 6 we can see page 2 that is having C. Similarly page 5 that is having F has been mapped to page that is frame 9. At frame 9 you will find F here, but the remaining pages page 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, so these are marked as invalid. Only the pages 0, 2 and 5 they are marked as valid because those pages are there in the memory. If a particular page is there in the memory, it is exists in the physical memory, it will be marked as valid here. That particular entry will be valid, and for the remaining pages we are marked as invalid. And when we demand for example page 1, if we demand for page 1, it is basically marked as invalid. It means that that particular page 1 is not there in the main memory, it cannot be executed immediately. So the program execution will be aborted and we need to bring that particular page from disk to the main memory. So if you look at page 1 where it is executing B, so B is present in disk, not in the main memory. So this is called as page fault. So the page 1 is demanded, it is requested for execution, but it is not available in the main memory. Because of that, this entry in the page table is marked as invalid. If it is invalid, it indicates that that particular page is not there in the physical memory. It will be there in the disk, and we are supposed to bring that page into the main memory. Until that, we cannot continue the execution of the processor program. Now let us look at the page fault. So that is what we discussed. If you make a reference to a page for the execution, if that page is not exist in the main memory and the corresponding entry in the page table will be invalid, then this is called as page fault. The page has been requested or demanded, but it is not exist in the main memory. Then page fault occurs. Then we need to bring that particular page from the disk to the main memory. Then we can continue with the execution of the program or process. So that is, if there is a reference to a page, first reference to that page will trap the operating system. The page is not there in the memory, it is trapped to the operating system. That is called as page fault. Now operating system looks at another table to decide invalid reference. So that is what, if the corresponding entry in the page table is marked as I, then it is called as invalid reference and process execution will be aborted because it is not there in the memory. In this case, what we can do, we can get an empty frame from the list of free frames, because in the main memory not all the frames have been utilized. Basically operating system is maintaining a list of free frames. So what it can do, it can get an empty frame. Next one, swap the page into the frame via scheduled disk operation, because there is a page fault occurred here, because the page is not there in the main memory, it is there in the disk. So we supposed to swap that particular page from disk to the main memory, and it should be mapped to the empty frame here. And after that, we'll have to reset the page table to mark that corresponding entry as valid. So once that page is brought into the main memory from disk, and the corresponding entry in the page table must be marked as valid. It indicates that that page is there in the memory, and in this case we'll have to restart the instruction execution that has been aborted due to page fault. Now let us see what are the different aspects of demand paging. In extreme case, start the process with no pages in memory. Initially, the entire process will be there in the disk and all its pages will be there in the disk. No pages are there in the memory. OS sets instruction pointer to first instruction of a process, that is a non-memory resident. So the first instruction will not be there in the main memory, it is there in the disk. So it is called as the non-resident instruction. In that case, page fault occurs. So operating system is basically demanding for a page of a program which is not available in the main memory, it is there in the disk, then that causes the page fault. So in this case, what happens is, we need to bring that particular page into the main memory. Until that, the process execution should be suspended. So this is called as pure demand paging. All the required pages must be brought into the main memory from the disk. Initially, no pages are there in the memory. So this is called as pure demand paging. Actually, a given instruction can access multiple pages. A particular instruction may be requiring multiple pages. So in this case, multiple page faults might occur. In this case, we need to swap the multiple pages from this to the main memory. So for the demand paging, definitely we require the support of hardware. So we need to have a page table with valid, invalid bit. So we already learned that if the valid If the entry of the page table is marked as valid, it means that particular page is there in the main memory. If it is marked as invalid, it is not in the main memory. If it is demanded, then we need to do swapping of that particular page from main memory, sorry, this to the main memory. And also we need a second memory, that is the disk where actually the pages are kept. It is used as a virtual memory, and instruction execution has to be restarted once the page is brought into the main memory from the disk. Let us say what is the instruction restart. Consider an instruction that could access several different locations. So there may be block move here and auto increment or decrement of location, and in this case whenever there is a page fault occurs and after loading or bringing that page into the main memory, we have to restart the whole operation. That is called as instruction restart. Now let us see a diagram where we can study about the different steps which are followed in handling a page fault. So the operation 1, the step 1 is we are making a reference to the page. We are making a reference to a particular page. It means a page is required for the execution, and after that if you look at the page table, the corresponding entry in the page table where valid invalid bit is set to I, it means that particular page is not there in the main memory. So then page fault occurs. So that is called as page fault. The demanded page or requested page is not available in the main memory because the corresponding entry in the page table is marked as invalid. Then we'll have the trap to the operating system. It means the program execution will be aborted. We cannot continue the execution of the program or process because the corresponding or the requested or demanded page is not available in the or not exist in the main memory. So then we trap to the operating system. Then operating system will load that particular page from the virtual memory to the physical memory. So the disk is called as virtual memory where the missing pages exist. So the third operation is page. We have to make a reference to the page which is there in the backing store. Next we need to bring that page to the physical memory. We have to issue read request to the disk here. Here we have to read that particular page from the disk and it has to be brought to the physical memory. In the physical memory what we do is we look at the empty frame, and that missed page will be mapped to that empty frame, and after that the page table has to be updated. Earlier it was marked as invalid, once that requested page is brought to the main memory, we have to make it as valid. We have to mark it as valid. It indicates that the requested page or demanded page is in the memory, hence it is marked as valid. In this case the entire instruction you have to restart. So the step 6 will be the restarting of the instruction. Now let us look at the performance of demand paging. Let us say what are the different stages exist in the demand paging. Stage 1, whenever a page is demanded, if a page fault occurs, then we tap to the operating system. Next, save the user register and process state. Process execution will be suspended in between, and we have to save the user registers and current state of the process. Next one, determine that the interrupt was a page fault. Next one, check that the page reference was legal and determine the location of the page on the disk. See, we have made a request for the page, but the page fault has occurred because that page is not exist in the main memory. Then we have to make a reference to that page in the disk. Next one, issue a read from the disk to the free frame. We'll have to read the missing frame from the disk and it has to be mapped to free frame in the main memory. So in this case, process has to wait in a queue for the device until a read request is serviced, then wait for the disk seek or latency time, then begin the transfer of the page to free frame. Next stage is, while waiting, allocate CPU to some other user to execute some other process instead of wasting CPU time. Receive an interrupt from the disk IO to indicate that IO operations are completed. Save the registers and process state of other user for other user. Determine that the interrupt was from the disk. Now the interrupt is indicating that disk has completed IO operation. After that, we have to correct the page table, and entering the page table was invalid. We have to make it as valid. So that is the correction of page table has to be done here. And other tables to show page is now in the memory. And wait for CPU to be allocated to this process again. The process execution has been suspended because of page fault, and after bringing that page into main memory and after updating the corresponding entry in the page table, we'll have to wait for the CPU because the CPU is busy in executing other processes. We'll have to wait for the CPU to be allocated to this process again. And to continue with the execution of the suspended process, we have to restore user registers process state and a new page table. The page table has been updated now after bringing missed pages from disk to the memory. So we have the new page table that we need to restore, then resume the execution of interrupted instructions. Now let us calculate the performance of demand paging. So we are taking some probability P. Here the probability P is indicating the probability of page fault. So if here the value of probability P will be ranging between 0 and 1. Whenever P equal to 0, there is no page fault. If P is equal to 1 and the reference made to a page is a fault. Okay, the page fault probability P will be ranging between 0 and 1. If a P is 0, there is no page fault. The demanded or requested page is available in the main memory, there is no page fault. So that is indicated as P equal to 0. Probability of page fault is 0 and probability of page fault P is equal to 1 whenever the requested or demanded page is not there in the main memory and page fault occurs. So that is the probability value P is equal to 1. It indicates there is a page fault. Now let us calculate effective access time. So here 1 minus P. What is 1? P is the probability of page fault. And what is 1 minus P? It is the probability of no page fault. P is the probability of page fault. 1 minus P will be the probability of no page fault. So in this case, effective access time is equal to 1 minus P. So that is the probability of no page fault. It means if the demanded or requested pages are in the main memory, then we calculate the time as 1 minus P into memory access time. So the time required to access that particular page from the memory. So that is called as memory access time plus P is the probability of the page fault. Okay, whenever there is a page fault occurs, then we need to bring that particular page from the disk to the main memory, and there will be some overhead we need to take care. That is called as page demand time. So in this case, it is basically page fault overhead plus swap page out plus swap page in plus restart overhead. So that extra time should be considered whenever the page fault occurs. So this is a formula to calculate effective access time in the demand paging. Let us take one demand paging example here. Let us take memory access time as 200 nanoseconds. The time required to access memory will be 200 nanoseconds. And average page fault service time is 8 milliseconds. Whenever page fault occurs, the time required to service that particular page from the disk will be 8 milliseconds. So whenever page fault occurs, we need to issue a read request to the disk, and we need to perform a swap in operation where we have to bring missing page from the disk to the main memory, and the average time required to do that is 8 milliseconds. Then effective access time can be calculated like this. 1 minus p is what? So this is probability of no page fault. In that case, we need to go for the memory access. The time required for the memory access is 200 nanoseconds. It will be 1 minus p into 200 plus p. P is what? The probability of the page fault. So whenever the page fault occurs, and the average page fault service time is 8 milliseconds. So it is p into 8 milliseconds. So 1 minus p into 200, p into, we have to convert milliseconds to nanoseconds because the memory access time we have taken here is 200 nanoseconds. So 8 milliseconds has to be converted to nanoseconds here. It will be 80 lakh nanoseconds we get here. And if you simplify this, we will get 200 plus p into it's 79 lakh 99,800. If one access out of 1000 causes a page fault, one memory access out of 1000 memory access causes a page fault, then what will be the effective access time? It will be around 8.2 microseconds. It means it will slow down the system by the factor of 40. 40 times the system execution speed will be slowed down. So that is because of page fault. Now let us move to the next topic, that is copy and write. Let us consider creation of a new shell process. We know that in Unix system we call the system call, that is fork, to create a new shell process. So whenever I create a new shell process, the newly created shell process is called as clone of the parent. It means it is a duplicate copy of the parent process. It means both parent and child will be executing the same code. So in this aspect, let us study about the copy on write. Copy on write basically allows both and parent process initially to share the same pages in memory. As I told already, once a fork is called, a new child process is created, both parent and child will be executing the same code of the same pages which are there in the memory. If any one process modify the shared page, then only the page is copied. Separate copy of that page will be created and modification will be done that particular process. It is called as copy on write. So whenever there is a read operation is being carried out by both parent and child, the same pages will be shared. If any one of either parent or child wants to modify that particular page, its a duplicate copy will be created and that process will go for modifying the page. For the reading operation, both parent and child will be sharing the pages, and whenever either process goes for modification, that is for write operation, then its a duplicate copy is created. Hence the name is given as copy on write. Create a duplicate copy of the page whenever a process wants to write or do the modification. And during read, no duplicate copy is required. The same copy or the same pages can be shared by both parent and child. So copy and write allows more efficient process creation as only modified pages are to be copied. In general, free pages are allocated from a pool to zero fill on demand pages. So in Unix there is a variation of fork that is called as vfork function. So this system call, what it will do is it will create a new child process and it will suspend the parent process until child completes the execution. And usually child process what it does is it will call exec to run a different program. So whenever child process call exec, it will be executing the code of the different program, not the parent's code. Until that, both parent and child will be executing the same code. So whenever we fork a child, child is clone of parent, parent and child executing the same program code. But whenever child calls exec to run different program, then child will be executing the different code here. So in this case, we need to adopt copy on write. So child using copy on write address space of parent, which is more efficient here. It can be shown in the diagram here. So this is basically process before process P1 modifies page C. So assume that process 1 is the parent process, process 2 is the child process. So this is the physical memory. So there are 3 pages in the physical memory, page A, page B, page C. So that is being shared by both the processes P1 and P2. So whenever process P1 forks a child process P2, so initially both P1 and P2, parent and child, will be executing the same program. The same pages are being shared by process P1 and P2. Now assume that child process P2 tries to modify page C. So whenever only reading is done, they have been shared. So whenever process 1 or child process modifies page C, here it cannot modify the original page because here process 1 tries to modify page C. In this case, it cannot modify the original page C because that is being used by process 2. In this case, what we can do, we can create a duplicate copy of that particular page C. We will have the copy of page C in the different frame, and that will be modified by process P1, and process P2 still accessing the old page, that is page C. So this is called as copy on write. Whenever a process tries to perform write, tries to modify the particular page, it is not allowed in the original page. Its duplicate copy is created, and the modification will be done in that copy of page C here, and the old page still that is being utilized by process P2.